have a appreciation party with their birthdays, emails, even just, hey, thank you for meeting 95% productivity or 100. My manager, who was actual director, he didn't know what he was doing. Who have you hired? Are they a reflection of you? Can you lead better? Can you train better?
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Business Narrative, a platform where we discuss real problems and their solutions with those people who have been conquering, who have been solving those problems for the people, and they are providing solutions to them. And today we have another guest, which is very self-efficient, self-made. She is none other than LaShawnda. LaShawnda, thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. And now I will going to discuss employees' rights, because everybody talks about CEO's problem, their problems, that how they can build their business, how can this scale up their businesses, but nobody talks about employees retention. Why companies they are unable to retain their best employees? Number one, what is the main reason behind it, and how you can work as an CEO for employees, because employees are everything, right?
A lot of times employers as leaders and team leads and managers, we want to we kind of have a dictatorship type relationship. We're dictate like what the employee should do. We're not really listening to the employee. For example, if the employee says, hey, I need additional training, or this is too much work, a lot of times when the employee comes with those concerns, it is flipped around on the employee as, oh, you have a lack of understanding. You didn't take the time to understand and utilize the material, when that's not what the employee has said. The employee has said, hey, I need additional training, I need help. And so we didn't hear the cry for help. What we heard was, hey, lack of understanding. They're lazy, they're not trying, no one else is complaining. And so one thing to retain employees is to listen better, listen to the needs of your team, especially when it comes to training, when it comes to products and services, because they're the ones that are doing the work. And I'm gonna give a quick example. I was working with this great pharmaceutical company, and I was a data analyst at the time. And so we were pulling a lot of data. I mean, 100 lines plus of data, and we needed something that can hold the data. So we were not really asked what systems we thought would make sense for our role. Instead, they removed the current system we had. And with Excel, even Excel has limitations. And so with the current the system we had, they removed it and put in another system that nobody was trained on. As a result, the teams were not able to do their job. It slowed down the customer input because they didn't know how to pull the data. They didn't know how to use the different formats in the screens. And so the old system was removed, and there was a new system in place, which caused productivity to go down by 75%. Because the team was not trained on it. And it really wasn't a great tool for the data we were pulling and we need to synthesize and use for operations. And so had the organization came to us who were pulling the data, then we would have said, hey, we need something that does XYZ, that can simplify the solutions. So that way we would have had the delay in customer input. So again, not to be long-winded, but really listening can help retain employees. Also, giving the employees access to resources and tools to do their best work. Does your team have proper training? Is there online manual as well as something physical that they can utilize? Is there a centralized location, like a SharePoint site, where all the employees can access company resources, training, procedures, so they can reflect as needed? Then also access to leadership. Every leader should be a coach. There should be a coaching aspect to where you're not just listening to your employees, but you're able to coach them when they're doing good and when they're not doing so great. And so then also you have to be coachable as a leader as well, because when you're retaining employees, sometimes we're the problem. Like, let's be honest, we don't dot every I and cross every T. And so sometimes we make a mistake. Sometimes we're given too much work. We're not given the right systems or solutions. So we need to sometimes take a step back and say, maybe I can do better. Maybe I can pass some of your caseload to another employee so you won't feel burnt out and stressed. And so some of the things to help retain employees is be an effective listener, be a great communicator. We want to listen first and then talk later. You want to be understanding of your employees' needs, and make sure that you're giving them the resource and tools to do their best work. And then get to know them, build a relationship with them. It shouldn't be just based on metrics and numbers. You want to have an open door relationship that can come to you about anything they're going through. And so that way, when their data or their productivity is down, you realize there must be something behind the productivity, which is why they're not meeting their metrics. And so to me, those are definitely the top. And then, of course, benefits. Everyone wants to be paid fairly. And so making sure that pay is commutable with their experience, but then also helping the employees to know what avenues they can go in. What is the next level from their current role? What that does, that tells the employee that you care about them. It tells them that they matter. It tells them you want them to be successful. And so those are 5 great tools and resources that all leaders and HR managers should utilize to make sure employees are retained. And then lastly, appreciation. Have a appreciation party with their birthdays, emails, even just, hey, thank you for meeting 95% productivity or 100. Everyone wants to appreciate it. And so making sure that you show your appreciation and not just have a pizza party, but an actual appreciation makes all the difference in the world. So I hope those were helpful.
So you are just saying that it's all about system. Like this is the failure of systems in companies. So I want to know, like I'm very curious to know, like how these broken systems look like and how to fill those gaps in those systems. Because if there is an issue, like employees are unable to talk to their CEOs or their managers, how can we fix this problem of system?
So one thing, a legacy system, an old, outdated system that doesn't work, a lot of times we hear it's always been done this way. So there's a system where a lot of times we have old legacy processes that are not effective for example, this century. Right now we're in a time frame where AI is king. And so if your systems and processes are from like 30, 40 years ago, you're using a legacy system where they have to calculate everything by hand, manually type documents, your system is outdated. And what that does, that slows the employee down when it comes to doing their work. And so now, whereas they could output 100, maybe reports in an hour, they're now only doing 5 to 10 because they have to have these old mundane processes that don't make sense. And so making sure that we are staying abreast with technology is how that we make sure the proper systems in place. That looks like training. Again, all of that, all of those are systems, proper training, access to leadership development resources. And so, but really it goes down to those trainings and those systems, making sure that we don't have an outdated system that is giving old data. And then being sure to do your own research. What are my competitors utilizing? If my competitors are always ranked as the top 5 and we're ranked at number 40, maybe I can learn something from my competitors. So taking notice of what your competitors are doing, so you also can see how you can have a competitive advantage by doing something similar.
Okay, so employees should talk to untrained managers. Untrained managers, okay? If I talk about my previous experiences, there was a time when I was working with XYZ company and there were some untrained managers and there was a communication gap between me and them. I think you also experienced the same in your career at some point as well. So how should CEOs can make sure that if they are giving position of a manager to anybody, he should be capable enough because it can make a huge impact.
I experienced that. So I was hired on my company. We were hired as a senior PM. I was hired as senior PM for this company. And my manager, who was actual director, he didn't know what he was doing. He actually was an engineer and his boss left. His boss left the company and he was kind of pushed into this role. He did not know how to manage employees. He wasn't comfortable coaching, saying things are wrong, or even delegating work. And so I would constantly say, hey, good morning. We haven't seen you around the office. Are there any tasks? How are the customer relationships? How are the QBR reports? So I was basically doing his job, like sitting out meetings, making sure that he knew what the messages were for our customers, making sure that client engagements were done, making sure that we had all of our meetings and all of that was taken care of. And so after I spoke with him, I said, hey, I don't want to be rude. I said, but is everything okay? How long have you been in this role? And he told me, he said, LaShawnda, my manager left and there was nobody else for this role. He said, so I was kind of pushing this role and I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable talking to employees about things I need them to do. He didn't like to delegate. He expected employees to look and find out what they need on their own. He wasn't comfortable with introductions. He didn't really like to kind of like advocate as well. When he knew something was wrong, he kind of just watched. And so what I kind of had a conversation. I said, hey, well, let me help you. I said, because as a leader, you have to coach your employees. There are times you have to have those tough conversations when they're not meeting expectations. And I said, you also have to speak to your team. You have to engage. You want to make sure they can access the system, have the right permissions. And so eventually the manager left. Like he went to another role. And so at that point, we didn't really have one. We were kind of reporting to someone else who was kind of interim. And so what I would do, because I had manager experience, leadership experience, I would look at the scope of work and I would just kind of see what everyone's bandwidth was and then kind of manage it that way by dispersing it to who could, and then making sure that all the team members knew that we were here to support each other and to not be afraid to say that they needed help. And so I was able to step into that role myself, undocumented, if you would, but to kind of make sure to keep the team abreast, because when you're a project manager, you have to manage the project. You have to stay on target. You have to stay on budget. And sometimes you have to, unfortunately, like, do some training. If you have like entry level PMs who don't know how to do the information interviews or even the assign the Trello, the different reports that are needed. And so it was unfortunate that manager left, but what it taught me was to make sure every employee knows how to coach, how to not just manage. A manager just kind of tells you what to do. A leader gives you not just the tools to fish, they show you how to fish. Then they check your understanding and they make sure that you understand how to operate on your own if you need to. And so I was able to do that when my manager had left the company.
Now I will going to ask you this, like there are many startups, they face problems of hiring people, right people for right job, right? So how they can make sure that if they are hiring the right person for the right job, how they can initiate this, like the people they are adding in their team, they will going to provide them value as well as respect, and they can play a vital role in the growth of the company. What are some main initial steps from your past experiences?
I believe you should understand like what the goals are of the team. It is because you can't really dictate or plan what each person would do if you don't know what your needs are. And so what is the overall goal or vision of the team that you're trying to create? And then I believe a charter. As a project manager, I believe charters are great because what it does, you can create a chart and put it somewhere where everyone can look at. So with a charter, you're able to understand like the way forward, if you will. What are the vision and missions that you're looking to obtain? So once you or your leaders have decided what the vision is, what the mission is, you document that, which is more so the scope. And then you reach out to your network to find out, hey, who have you used in the past, or even pull a repository to see is there a resource we can use from prior, or even a functional member we can use to build a team. A lot of times when you're in technology sectors, everyone is functional. You may be an analyst, but you're also sometimes a PM. You're sometimes doing marketing. So just depending on the company, so you got to be functional and flexible. And so when you understand the vision and mission of the team, so now you write down what is our goal, who is needed to complete this role. And that's where looking at prior relationships and prior positions comes into play, because you can see who was used in this role prior. What can I learn from them? What resources did they use? What did their team member look like? And you can decide if those are attributes or competencies, that you feel are effective for who you're looking to build a team with. And then you want to make sure you know what skills are needed. So many times we hire friends, we hire neighbors, family members, just because we're trying to quickly fill a position. But you want to make sure that person is qualified, that you are interviewing, that you're really considering for the role, and are they coachable? I keep going back to coachable because I don't hear a lot of people talking about coaching. If you're hiring someone that is knowledgeable, but they're not personable, they're not coachable, they can't receive feedback, they will be detrimental to your company. The employee that you're building, do you want them to be someone that's compassionate, that is flexible, that was easy to pivot? If so, those are attributes that are important to you. So you want to make sure the person you're interviewing fills those roles, and then communicate regularly, making sure that when you're interviewing, I would say if you have a board, you can reach out to them, say, hey, who do you need? What do we need as a whole to move forward in this project to build this team? So once you've done your interview, you have your vision and your charter, then you start prospecting. You reach out and you have a model idea of who you want for this role. And then okay, I need a seasoned cybersecurity professional with 2 to 5 years that is coachable, that is personable, but that also is looking to grow. That's who you look for, and you base your team off of that. But when you're building teams, sometimes we build too quickly. We start with 10 people and we don't really know how to manage the first three. So I would say start with what are the requirements? What are the mandatory positions we need? As a small business, we hire too quickly. We'll hire a CFO, we'll hire an analyst, an HR manager. You don't need all of those when you're first starting out. You will go bankrupt. So you want to make sure you hire your VA, someone that can multitask, do different roles. And then what is something else you necessarily need? You have to have HR, because you have to have someone that can manage the payroll, someone that can manage, like, make sure you're in compliance with government's policies and rules and regulations. So those are two roles that are necessary. So what's next? Do you have a large customer base? If you already have a large customer base, how many people per customer can do the job that's needed so you can meet your metrics? So all of that plays an impact on building your team, because you don't want to hire 100 people and you only have 10 clients. That doesn't make any sense. So you want to make sure your hiring of your team members makes sense for your current customer base. But again, make sure they're knowledgeable, make sure they're coachable, and then make sure they have the necessary skill set. And then make sure you're not scaling too fast. Too many times we start big and we should start small and then nurture those people so that they can go and grow to another position. And so those are a couple of baby steps startups can take when they're building teams. And again, communicate, because sometimes one person may have a strength in another area. And so can this team member also build systems as well as provide a great customer experience? If so, they may be to take on additional projects that can benefit the whole. And so again, we are building startup teams. You want to make sure you understand who you're looking for, create a charter to keep you on track, and manage your time wisely, but also make sure that you're hiring someone not just because of like ability factor, but someone that can do the job. And then lastly, don't hire too many people in the beginning, but start small so you can grow and nurture those people, and then bring in a larger subset of individuals based off your customer base. So I know it was an extensive answer, but I really wanted to go in depth because I don't think we talk about it enough.
Okay, from your insights are very helpful and very grateful. But on the other side, we see that you are emphasizing indirectly on company culture and communication, because you are saying this communication is key. So, like, how we can develop this culture of communicating in a company, because CEOs, they are not directly involved in all the activities, because we have talked about managers and their work and their task. So, like, what are the key steps how founders can make sure that honest culture of communication can be a crucial part of their company's growth?
So as my leadership style is very comprehensive. I'm not just I'm more consulting type. So whereas I listen and I'm coachable. So I have a variety. I would say to solve that, you have to decide what is your leadership style. How do you lead? If you're a dictator, or you won't be a good leader because your employees won't come to you. And so one thing I would say, especially when you're trying to coach, especially aspiring leaders or new people who are new to entrepreneurship or to their job, you want to make sure that you have an open door approach as a leader. I had a manager, her door was always open unless she was in a meeting. And so her open door told me I was welcome to come in with any concerns. So there were times when my system didn't work or I needed to talk to IT. I can always come to her, and I felt comfortable. I built a relationship. You see managers sometimes with the door stays closed. You only see them walking around when they're going to the restroom or lunch. And what that does, it tells the employees that are within that office that, hey, they don't want to be bothered. And so what means that they have a problem or they can't figure it out on their own, they won't come to you because they don't feel safe. So you want to create a psychological safe work environment where people can talk about, the things that they don't like so much in a tactful manner. You want to be able to have town halls so you can come together as a whole and find out, what does your company need? How do your employees feel? I was reading a great book by one of my favorite art and it's about workplace. And he was saying how they were interviewing managers, and what the manager said was that everyone here loves me. I'm a great manager. As he was going around himself and interviewing employees, they hated the manager. They said the manager doesn't talk to them. He only stays in his office. He doesn't know their name. He was not approachable. And see, two different perspectives, same company. But if you take time to build a relationship, have a town hall to find out what the needs are, and then implement those needs, you are now inviting your employees to be a part of the solution. Not to feel like they're not just an employee, but they feel like they are part of the company. In your town halls or your meetings, ask them what's important to them. So that way, and then don't just ask, implement. I've been in so many town halls and meetings where employees will say, we want XYZ, or we would love to have this, and it's never implemented. And what it tells employees that, okay, I was here, but I wasted my time because nothing has changed. And so it's not just enough to have a town hall, to have a meeting, but you want to implement some of the solutions that your employees have suggested. And then again, I keep going back to that open door. You want to have an open door consulting approach where you're listening, and you're not just providing solutions, but you're asking the employee, what do they need? What do they think? Even when it comes to discipline, there are times you have to unfortunately discipline employees. Maybe they kept constantly coming in work late. You're just having a conversation. Hey, tell me about this. Instead of saying, why did you come in late? You're not meeting metric. You can say, hey, can you tell me about this time? I just want to understand, what is impacting your work. Do you not have proper training? Try to find out what their why is, instead of automatically putting employees on a IEP or employee employment plan. And I've seen this several times. When I work with employers, I tell them there's a way around fired employees. Majority times, 95% of times, you can save that employee relationship. If you talk to an employee, find out what they're going through. Maybe it's a death in the family that's impacting their work. Maybe you don't have enough solutions in your handbook. Maybe there are no access for the employees to look at to do their job. And so they're just marking anything and hoping it sticks. And so if you don't talk to your employees, you don't know that. So create an environment where they can talk about their frustrations without you getting offended. So many times, an employee may say, hey, you offended me. You said something that hurt me a little bit, and we get offended and we want to kind of retaliate. We can't do that. You want to have an open approach and just say, okay, I apologize. What can I do better? Even seek to understand. A lot of times we automatically get offensive. But if we take time to understand the why behind any problem or any concern, it solves so many problems in the workplace. And again, it increases trust. Even when you have to say the things that are not comfortable, when you know more about your employees, like what they're going through, their child, whether they have 10 kids or 5, and they all play sports, try to build a relationship with your employees. Try to get to meet them where they at, and then find out what they need, even with benefits. We do office parties, do pizza parties all the time. And some employees are tired of pizza. I heard this recently. I heard a couple employees in the office talking in the break room that they were sick of pizza parties. They prefer to go bowling as a team because they felt it built team camaraderie better than having a pizza party. But again, if you don't ask for input and you make assumptions, you negatively impact that relationship. And so I know I went a bit long, but I wanted to give a forward scope overview of different solutions we can do to create a healthy, thriving, psychological safe work environment.
There is a very crucial question which is driven from your previous conversation, that is, how can founders can stop firefighting and they can make sure that their company, their employees, and all the other members will going to grow. Because if you are not providing value, your business will not going to grow, and your consumers, they will not going to buy your product.
Delegating. Number one, delegating and having I want to say proper training, because if you properly train your employees, then you're not doing everything yourself, even as a business owner. So I have interns, I have a team, I have teams. And so every employee on my team has leadership development. I believe everyone is a leader, they just don't know it. And so I believe when you have a hierarchy as to where employees can go, it limits them. So then you're stuck doing everything. You're stuck doing marketing. You're stuck doing social media. You're doing operations and marketing, project management. But if you teach your employees different tools, we even offer access to Udemy where they can learn different. It's a requirement actually to learn a skill within the first 6 months. I want our employees to stay pivotal and marketable because less with the current technology life we're living in, you have to be knowledgeable of what's happening. And so as a CEO of my and a founder of my company, I want to make sure that I'm not doing everything and burnt out. And so I make sure my teams have access to training. I make sure that they go to conferences, they go to summits. I bring them with me to networking events as well, as I want them to be comfortable speaking up because my job is to push them to greatness. I don't want them to be comfortable staying where they're at. And I believe great leaders push you to be great. They help you to see that you are capable of so much more. And so by doing so, you're able to create an environment where they volunteer at times. Hey, I'll take the project. I'll help Billy. I'll help Paul. So now you have people who volunteer for different opportunities because they feel supported in that role. And so again, when you're hiring, making sure you're hiring the right people who are trainable, coachable, and approachable, it helps you. Even just one person. If you have one person, then also look at Fiverr. There's Fiverr, there's Gigger, there's Gigster. There are so many fractional companies out there that you can look for part-time help. So you're not doing everything. You can find someone for 50 hours a month at $100. So if you're a small business owner or a startup founder, you may not have a lot of money, but what it allows you to do is get the temporary help you need as you're building and scaling your teams. So I hope that was helpful.
Shwanda, this is a time of rapid fire round, and now I will going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and you have to answer them very quickly. Which skill you wish you know earlier?
One skill I wish I learned earlier, I would say, hmm, I'm really good at analyzing data. I would say data analytics. I didn't really get heavy into data till like maybe 20 years ago. 15 years ago, I really tried to avoid a lot of heavy data cleansing and governments. But I understand, I grew to love data because data tells a beautiful story. And if you know how to cleanse data, utilize it in different ways, it can tell you where you've been, where you're going. It can help you to forecast for the future. And when you know how to utilize data, it's really effective as your job seeker because every role has data. If you're using AI, you have to feed it data. If you're doing reporting, it's data. You have to know how to do pivots and VLOOKUP and HLOOKUPs. Data is everywhere. And so when we run from the thing that scares us, we limit our growth. And so I wish in the beginning of my career, I would have focused more on data, learning more about data and data science and all of that versus really digging into data later on in my career. So that's something I honestly meant. I wish I would have dived in a bit earlier.
Okay, one habit that makes a huge difference in your career.
What happened? It was that I actually took, so I was working at a tech company, working at Cisco, to be honest. And even though I was hired as a business system analyst, I actually was doing a lot of data analytics work. And so the business system analyst, business system analysis, we're kind of be reactive. But in a data analyst role, you're really forecasting for the future, really heavy in reporting. And so I kept looking, I said, I've done business analysis before. This is not business system. This is a lot of data. It became really data heavy. So I found out from someone that was in another cubicle to me that you're actually doing a lot of data analytics work. And they were telling me how they made so much money and how the doors open up when you can read and interpret data, especially when it comes to reporting. And so I said, oh, was that so? And so I began doing my own research. And then I took a few courses. When I took a course, I fell in love. I took a course through Coursera with the University of Maryland. And I loved it. I fell in love with the examples, learning how to pivot, learning how to forecast. I learned how to predict data. I fell in love. And then again, not to mention the pay was a whole lot more. So I knew how to utilize data and then train others on how to use data. Excuse me. So that's where the pivot came in with me not utilizing, not really loving it because I was scared at the beginning. I thought I was too extroverted to be in a data analytics role. And I thought that data was just more so head down typing all day, but it's not. You get to travel when you can read data. You get to build system and solutions and dashboards. So for me, that was exciting. And so that's what really caused me to pivot and really grow my love for data.
You love tea or coffee?
I love tea.
Any fictional character that you want to play in your real life?
Butterfly. I'm gonna say a butterfly. It's not fictional, but um, I'm just gonna say a butterfly is what I would love to be. If I could choose to be something, it'd be a butterfly. And I think a butterfly that spits fire because a butterfly is beautiful, but it's if it has fire, it's ferocious as well. It's something different. So even though it's beautiful, it's different and it's impactful at the same time. So it's not just something that's traditional. The fire says, "Hey, I'm here. I look like I'm normal. I look like I'm like everyone else, but I'm not. My fire, it highlights who I am. It brings energy, which changes the atmosphere. So when I open my mouth, atmosphere shifts, which is what the fire represents.
What is your free time thing? What you can do easily in your free time and you love to do it?
Honestly, oh my gosh. So, I have two favorite things. I love working out. So I go to the gym 6 days a week. I know a lot of people don't like it. I love lifting weights. So I love working out on my pastime. And then hiking. I'm such an outside person. I prefer to be outside hiking mountains, zip lining, running. I just love nature. I believe that the nature outside grounding is healthy, it's therapeutic. And so I prefer to be outside, embracing the sun, enjoying the birds and the trees any day than being inside.
So it means you are a nature lover as well. So this is the end of a rapid fire round. And now, LaShawnda, we have a lot of things to discuss. But before leaving, I want to ask you any message for those aspiring people, those people who are working really hard but they are not getting results, how they can motivate themselves, how they can get results. What is your tip to all of them? Because they are trying really hard from last many years, but they are not getting the desired results.
Start with you. You have to start with you. What can I do better? And I believe in self analysis. I'm also a yogi. And so I do mindfulness and all this as well. So I'm really going to go into a holistic approach. I believe when we look within us, we can see what we can do better. What do I want my team reflect? Your team is really a reflection of you. And so if you feel stuck or your team isn't really producing the way you would like them to, it may be a personal thing. Who have you hired? Are they a reflection of you? Can you lead better? Can you train better? Am I more approachable? Am I accessible to my team? Am I providing resource? Am I helpful? Because sometimes, we're at so many meetings, we're not making time for our teams, our employees. We're not going by to meet them, to shake their hand, to sit with them at lunch. I think one of the best things that happened to me, I had a CEO sit with me at lunch and just talk to me. We talk about family, kickball, bowling. Like they made me feel like a person, like I mattered. And so looking within yourself, what can I do better? Is there something that I can do to change the dynamic of my team? That could be maybe I can look there. I can look at community colleges for hiring people. Or am I only looking at the Ivy League institutions? Am I only recruiting at certain levels versus looking at what's around me that's accessible? So that's where that looking within starts at what can I do so I'm not stuck? And I might need some coaching. I might need some therapy too. Sometimes we need therapy. We need to go to an EAP, and book a session, to find out, what are my mental blocks that I can't see that is really causing bottlenecks in my company. And once you really address the inner me, you can then produce results that really are that ripple throughout your company. And so a lot of times solutions, processes, all of that makes an impact. And again, it starts with you. So we are a process. Life is a journey. We're not going to be perfect. But when we assess how we're doing and we make necessary changes, we can then help our team to be better by being the best we can be.
Thank you so much, LaShawnda, for your precious time. And I will going to mention all the links in the description. You can visit the website and you can visit her profile as well for the help. Do remember this. I mention this thing again and again, that you need to take the first step towards your entrepreneurial journey. If you think that you are sitting and watching this podcast, you can't do anything. So take a first step, keep listening, keep daring, and keep achieving. We will be going to meet you in the next podcast. Till then, take care. Bye bye.